Hi teachers, and welcome to another 10 Talk. I'm excited today. Kristen Foley, who is a third grade teacher in Bloomington District 87, is going to chat with us about, today we're going to chat about organization and organizing your instruction, which if you've heard me talk at all, that's near and dear to my heart. So I'm excited about that. My name is Nancy Latham. I'm from the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. And Kristen, I'm excited because like I said, I love this. And especially in the remote world, you know, using organization to make it easier for everybody, right?
Exactly. This is my cup of tea. It's my jam. If I'm not organized, I don't feel like I'm doing my very best. And I want to give my very best to my students every day. So I think teachers, when I share some tips with you today, there are things that you probably do in person that you can slightly modify or just actually remember that, oh yeah, I actually do that and this will work. It'll make your life online with remote learning much easier. So if I share my screen with you, and I'm going to teach this as well, how you can share a portion of your screen and get rid of all that extra stuff that we don't want the kids to see, but you still want to have access to. So when I'm sharing my screen, I'm just adjusting the screen bar. So hopefully you just see my presentation and you don't see all that stuff around the edges, your tabs that are open in your web browser. And your slide deck on the side, but you still have it so you kind of know what's coming up and if you typed any notes in the speaker box as well. So we have 10 minutes to talk today. So I picked 10 things and I'm going to fire them at you about an idea a minute. We know teachers are collectors and we're always looking for great ideas from colleagues, workshops, Pinterest, anywhere we can, and then finding ways to make them our own. So when I see a technique that I know will improve the quality of my instruction and empower students, excite students, then I know it's a keeper. And I want to try to do my best to not forget it. So I usually make it a part of my smart notebook or my Google slide deck. So like I said, here are 10 simple ones I've been using with remote learning that I think will help with organization. So the first one is student materials. I actually knew pretty much a good amount of time in advance to gather what I wanted to be color coded and organized. So my students had their own little mini classroom at home. So I color code everything, and by subject level, anything, whether it's a physical material or a digital material, I'll try to put a little splash of blue on it for math and green for reading and so on. So for example, in math here, I picked blue because that was the color of the given workbook, but then I could make my own materials, those colors as well. And it just, I think, helps me organize and helps kids and families organize where materials go and what they need when. I also saw this great idea for communication using a red and green two-sided paddle. So it's the yes, no paddle. And it's so much easier than seeing a raised hand. Kids are always stretching and you think their hands up and it's like, no, I was just stretching. So this is so much better. When you look across your grid of students, you can easily see green and oh, there's a red dot. So I need to see what that student needs and ask them to unmute and tell me what troubles they're having. So I might say paddles up, can you see my shared screen? And then everybody knows that means they're supposed to be giving me this communication. I can easily check and move on. The other one is if you're fortunate enough to have whiteboards for your students or they purchased them as part of a school supply, that's really, really good, but we don't all have that luxury. So one thing you can do is just grab a sheet of cardstock and laminate it. And then if it's on a hard surface like a table or a clipboard, you have an instant dry erase board so that you can have students stay organized and be not running around the house looking for a sheet of paper when you want them to do some quick notations or work out some problems or jot down answers. So some of the things I talked about cost money, right? Well, I was fortunate enough to get a grant for a lot of this, but teachers are used to spending their own money. I just want to remind them that you don't always have to pay full price. You can maybe create an Amazon wish list and get people to buy things off of that. Your administrator might have extra funds, your parent-teacher organization, oftentimes we'd forget about them and they would love to support classroom endeavors. You could even ask businesses to donate items or give you a teacher discount, so don't forget those things. So then when I get into an actual remote lesson with my students, I always have an opening page and I'm playing music from my Amazon Mrs. Foley's Classroom playlist. So they can, 1, check their sound is working, 2, check the volume is correct. And then I give them reminders, like one thing we were working on a couple of weeks ago is prepping your workspace, both the physical environment, but also your digital environment, and how to make sure only the tabs you need are open and any of the programs would be closed to maximize your computer speed. But I also put in there a question that they type in the chat, and it could be something simple like tell me a highlight from your weekend, but it could also be a check-in with how you're feeling. So describe how you're feeling this morning in 2 words. And I can kind of already get a picture of how they might be feeling before we even start our day. Or it could be related to the lesson and a review from the previous day, such as type a multiple of 9 with the product in the chat, and I can kind of see where students are in remembering those previous lessons.
I love that. I'm always telling my students to be sure and have a hook and a connection to previous learning, but the chat's a great way to do that. Love it.
Yes. Oh, I use the chat in so many ways. Definitely. So when I mention the web browser tabs, sometimes students have way too much open. So I teach them which ones you need and which ones you don't, because sometimes you'll open your web browser and the district has preset them for you, and there might be some you don't need, or if you launch a Zoom meeting, a tab's open that you don't need after the meeting's launched. So we just want to maximize and optimize that performance for them. And then I also teach my students a lot of technology vocabulary and the purposes of them. So one would be to pin pages so you don't accidentally close them like I did today, so I wouldn't accidentally lose my presentation. It takes away that X option so you don't accidentally close it, but you can also unpin the page at any time as well. And then of course, bookmarking all our favorite sites so they're quick at hand is another great one. So then I created what I think is a very simple agenda because it's consistent. It's the same every day. It's not like you have to open up your agenda and see, well, what times am I online today and what activities am I doing? It's a little more concrete and it's laminated. So with a dry erase marker, my students can mark when they come back for afternoon reading group or for afternoon math group. And they just circle it right before lunch when I tell them what groups they're in, and then they can look at it. Their parents can even pop over and look at it and say, oh, okay, you're going back at 1:30 today. And then they also have a nice little checklist here for their independent asynchronous activities to mark it off and then erase it at the end of the day. When we're in class, I want to tell them what are the specific skills or standards we're working on. So they're not wondering all day, what are we doing? And it's previewed first thing. So what we're doing in math, then we'll have a break. You'll go to art class. We'll have reading. You'll have another break, and we'll wrap up with writing before lunch. This is going to help them feel calm. They're going to know what to expect. And it's a nice, concise way to highlight those skills for the day. And then before we go to lunch, when I announce those afternoon groups, I have this template as well, where they see their name visually, but they also verbally hear me announce it. And so I'm a very big believer in verbal and visual to help all learners, plus the tech issues of sometimes your sound doesn't work, or those sorts of things. We want to cover all our bases. Then I use a lot of suggestion lists and checklists to give students ideas. Again, so it's visual and they can go back and look, what was I supposed to do on my break? Oh yeah, most important, use the restroom, then have a snack, then I can do something more physical. And clear cut times for returning as well. My students always return at 10:15, but if you have to vary it on different days, be sure you post it so they can find that easily. Keep it simple and consistent. Here's an example of a checklist, which is different than a suggestion list because this one you want them to do everything and sometimes even in order. One nice feature in here is if you use the Annotate tool, which is a Zoom feature. Let's see if I could pull it up. It might be I don't have permission since you're the host of this meeting. The Annotate feature would allow me to use little stamps like check marks. It even has a kind of like a spotlight tool, almost like when you have a laser pointer. So students can follow along when you're going through your checklist and showing them different things. And I use an online stopwatch timer, and I have for many, many years. This one, online-stopwatch.com, has so many awesome options, but some of them may be a little bit too intriguing. And if you really want students to focus on work or physically step away for a break to give their eyes a rest and go move about, you might want to pick one that's not so exciting for those times, but they certainly have a lot of great options. Now, one of my colleagues gave me this awesome idea. She said, use your breakout rooms as individual quiet spaces. So if you need a student to go off and maybe read independently, work on fact fluency, watch a video, and you don't want to hear the conversations between the teacher and the student who's having a tech issue, everybody's in their own breakout room. So if you make 26, 27 for every one of your students, and then they need you, they just raise their digital hand and you go help them individually. Or
I love that
they
idea.
pop out of the breakout room and they talk to you in the main room. But it's a great way, because I feel like sometimes the students can't ever get started until you answer everyone's question. And if they don't have a question, they go ahead and get working.
Right.
Here's an example of how I might do that in math. At the end of my math lesson, we do a little math fact fluency and Moby Mac. So everyone's in a breakout room. After they're done with that, they leave the breakout room, they take their real physical break, and then come back for PE. All right, down to my last two. So step-by-step guides are essential because there's so much you're teaching your kids. So let's say they have to take the math test and it's now on this platform online. If you take snips using your snipping tool and draw a few arrows, put in a few text boxes to explain it, and walk them through before you take the test, show them how to use all the features. They're not in the test trying to take it and multitask and, you know, missing your important directions, but they're seeing it and they're getting this practice opportunity to know, like, how do you navigate forward and backward? What is that gray bar with the play button? Oh, I can actually have it read to me. So you're modeling it and then releasing them to go do it on their own. And then I mentioned the snipping tool. This is one of my favorite tools that you can use with Windows. If you don't know about it, just type the word snip in the search bar down below. SNIP pops it right up, and you can use it to kind of marquee select and get what you want and then copy and paste it. So awesome tool I use a ton. So I think I did it. 10 tips in 10 minutes.
You did. I'm so excited. These were so good. We're going to have an awesome top 10 list built out of this. In fact, we may even take each one of your slides and make it a top, because there was information on every one of those, which was great, from websites and timers and just all kinds of things. So thank you. These have been great. I absolutely love these, and I can't imagine. I mean, you could just take them all so many different directions, and they're not age dependent. I mean, I was sitting here thinking how I could use some of those with even with college students. So thank you. Yeah. Kristen is actually going to be doing a few other 10 talks. So look for those, watch for those. She's going to be doing one coming up on engagement strategies and also tech tips. And as you can see, she has lots of tech tips. So thank you, Kristen. I appreciate it.